Indeed, but doesn't that depend on China quickly develop the 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 alternative to EUV machines so they can produce the cutting edge chips? Because right now China is still limited to make 7 nanometer chips because the sanctions. I mean, China figured out a way to tune their existing machines to make 7 nanometer chip, but to go beyond that, they will need a UV machine, and they don't have access to that. I think in the next couple of years, China might be fine because what China has done is they figure out how to design around it, make their process more efficient to leverage the existing chip architecture. This is why you're seeing like amazing things out of Huawei with Ascend, their Ascend AI chips. So you see the result like the DeepSeek, but at some point, China would have to acquire the advanced chip making technology in order to progress. No.
So, so the question about whether or not China has enough AI chips is like I guess it's like a major concern among a lot of the China followers out there, and it's kind of interesting because one of the last time we talked, I discussed that we talked about TSMC with Huawei, and at the time, I thought the entire stuff about Huawei getting their chips fabbed by TSMC was bullshit, right? And then, so what happened was like a few weeks after that, a pretty close contact of mine uh, told me that that thing was not bullshit, and it actually did happen. And the interesting part about this is, based on what he told me, like TSMC told the U.S. Commerce Department that they not only did they fab AI chips for Huawei, they made the amount that they told the Commerce Department was so large that I almost fell out of my chair. And that was also one of the reasons that I think the Biden administration told TSMC basically you can't fab any more 7 nanometer AI chips for any Chinese firms because apparently Huawei through backdoors they got millions of like chips fabbed off TSMC. So my opinion on this is okay. So the 7 nanometer process itself is good enough that it can produce good enough AI chips. Like, you know, it's maybe it doesn't perform as well as the latest Nvidia chips, but it's good enough in that if you have enough of them, if you like, you know, if like if like an Elon Musk data center has 100,000 H100 out there, okay, and you have your own data center with 100,000 Ascent chips, which is a lot, by the way, then you know, one, DeepSeek proves that you don't need that many chips to train things. There are the chips like basically you get chips for two purposes. One is to actually train the models themselves, and second is for the inference, which means like once you train the models, then people when they want to use your models, they need to use GPUs to actually get results. And from what I can see is that they have enough resource out there to train the models they need to train. That's my opinion, at least. And the biggest concern for DeepSeek and some of the other smaller AI players in China is not even the access to the chips themselves, but rather the amount of money needed to buy the chips, because they don't have like as many of the deep pocket of VCs giving them money for no apparent reason, right? So for players like ByteDance and Alibaba and Tencent, right? They're like the biggest AI players in China, and they have the money to acquire all these chips, whether they're Nvidia chips or Ascend chips, right? And based on the amount of like production of 7 nanometer in China and the amount of AI chips they already have produced, I I think I think it's not going to be a problem. Like that's my opinion based on the numbers I've seen.
Wait, didn't DeepSeek just make their model open source? Did
Yep. So that's one of the other things, right? Like open source also helps. One thing is that other people around the world can use your model and can do modifications to it, and they can do all this, and they can use your model without using your GPUs, because all the GPUs are handled on these open source website like Hugging Face or Samba Nova.
Here's how to build anything with DeepSeek R1. Alright, so first place you can start is go to DeepSeek, then you're going to go to chat.deepseek.com. I'll be showing you many different ways to automate and build anything you like with DeepSeek today. But let's start off inside the chat here. You're going to make sure that you have DeepSeek R1 selected, and you can also use a web search now as well. So if you select web search, you can also search the web. We'll come on to that in a minute. Now inside chat.deepseek.com, you can actually just run HTML with anything that you build directly in here. So if we say, for example, create a Space Invaders game, what it's going to do is, number one, plan out exactly how it's going to build it. So you can see the sort of inner monologue here. I need to create a Space Invaders game using Python and Pygame. Let me start by recalling the basic structure of a Pygame application. And then it's going to start off figuring out exactly how to build it, how to set up the bullets, the enemies, etc., collision detection. And then we can just build out a game in literally one single prompt, right? Absolutely amazing that you can do that. And again, this is all completely free. Like, you don't need to pay for any of this, and you just build whatever you want. It's never been easier to build websites, tools, apps, games, whatever you want, directly inside DeepSeek R1. Absolutely amazing tool. If you want to run it directly inside the chat, you can just say build it in HTML. What that'll actually do is take the Python code that you've got right here and turn it into HTML that you can run directly inside the chat. So you'll see a run HTML option right there. And then once this is finished coding, which won't take long at all, we can then run the HTML for the game that we've just built. And you can use this process with DeepSeek R1 to basically do anything like this. The good thing about DeepSeek R1 is that it's a reasoning model, right? So it's got logic. It's very good at coding, very good at planning things out, very good at reasoning. If we click on run HTML here, you can see we've got the game ready to go. I can scroll between, I've got the enemies coming in towards me, and I've got the green thing that I can just move around right here, right? Pretty amazing, just worked perfectly first time round. And we just built a game that used to take coders literally dozens, if not hundreds of hours to build. So pretty amazing stuff right there. And that was just one of the methods, all right? So use chat.com. Make sure you have DeepThink selected, and then from there you can start using whatever you want. Now, another way to build anything you want directly with DeepSeek R1, so you can actually download it from Olama and then run it locally on your laptop, right? So you can have the AI running locally on your laptop. You don't need to use the web, and obviously any sort of projects you create are stored offline. So if you want to do that, all you do is you go to olama.com, download this, it's completely free, and then if you type in DeepSeek here, you'll see DeepSeek R1 pop up, right? And this is the latest model from DeepSeek.
Which is what I use. And the other thing they did was they created their own like AI app, DeepSeek, called DeepSeek. You can find it on your iPhone app store and stuff like that. And long term, how people will first really start using AI a lot of times on their phones. So there will probably be a battle out there amongst these AI foundational model creators out there, um, to see like whose apps have higher popularity, for example. And DeepSeek, one thing it has is like it's achieved a notoriety now. Like its name recognition is higher than most of the other, like all the other like Chinese AI producers. So people hear about it and people have used it. So people are using it and people are recommending DeepSeek out there. So that's one of the advantages it has. The Alibaba Qianwen is actually pretty good too. It runs pretty fast. I personally tested DeepSeek versus GPT-4o. I think the DeepSeek actually runs faster on my computer, and like when I send requests, it comes back pretty quickly. And I found its performance to be professional documents to be as good as GPT-4o. So like I think it's like everything people say about DeepSeek's models, it's true. Like I can personally vouch. I think I can personally vouch for the quality of their work. So I think like over the next few years, you're going to see this huge battle between the models that are developed in China that they open source versus a lot of these models you see in Western countries. And then you also have some companies in China like ByteDance, where they're going for more for like corporate users. They're going for bigger players. So like ByteDance in its case, it's actually going directly to the phone makers themselves. So um, their their AI will get used by a lot of the OEMs, so that when people use their phone, they will actually end up using the Doubao model. So there's a little bit of that too. So in the end, basically your goal, because you didn't get this, basically OpenAI had this huge advantage by being the first mover, right? As not the first mover, which is everyone else, you have to make sure people know about your AI, and so that they can use it, and then you have to do that by making your model as accessible as possible. So that's kind of why the Chinese players have taken this role of open sourcing everything. That's why Meta made the decision to open source everything. So if you look at the Hugging Face leadership board right now, it's mostly like amalgamation of Qianwen models and Llama models, because those are the best open source models that people can find that are not very large and doesn't have as many parameters out there, so they can run their computer.
But if DeepSeek is making itself open source and it's very cheap to train, how do they generate profit? How are they going to compete with like something like OpenAI that have deep pockets of the VCs from Silicon Valley?
Well, I think that's where the lower training cost comes into play. I think at the cost that they're charging for their inference, basically only they can be profitable at that cost level. I OpenAI right now is far and away the most expensive, AI to use out there, and they are only being used because they have, for the most part of their existence, being the most capable AI out there, and then they have the first mover. Once you have the first mover advantage, once people use your technology, right, and um, and adopted their entire system after your technology, you have like inherent advantage. But anyone that used OpenAI and ChatGPT knows sometimes they just go down. Like, can you imagine if you were a company that's using your foundational model that you use is OpenAI's GPT for all, and then one afternoon when you're busy wanting to handle like customer calls, suddenly it doesn't work because OpenAI went down for 5 or 6 hours. And this happened recently. It happened like a month ago. So there are issues with OpenAI where, due to cost and reliability, and due to hallucination issues, that you can't entirely rely on. Nobody can rely on OpenAI for a while. So I think the market is still out there, and also there is some advantages for the open source models, because some companies out there that that do the role of like adapting AI models, uh, for end users, right? Their goal is to basically the middlemen, the helpers, they develop the applications on top of the models so that different companies like Taco Bell can use them. Those companies, one of their selling point is, we control our own technology. We can run this on our own computers. That is a great selling point when you're making a pitch to Taco Bell or Pizza Hut or Delta Airlines or United or any of these people, because then you can guarantee that your technology is always run from your computers and such.
Okay, that's fair. What so where do you see going forward? What I want you to look into your crystal ball for a second.
Right now,
Okay.
one thing I noticed is that the the data center expansions in China are continuing. Like I've followed the data center build up in China pretty extensively, and they're still happening. So I don't see any kind of slowdown in computation powers. I think that as an industry, more and more people are going to be using AI in the coming years, and I think it's a disaster for different companies and definitely different countries out there, like Philippines, for example, that depends like 10% of their economy or close to that come from call center work, and from places like India where they also do a lot of call center work, and they also have a lot of entry-level developers that get used in the outsourcing companies, right? So it's a giant disaster for these countries. I think as a whole, uh, I think by the virtue of the fact that both America and Chinese tech companies have invested a huge amount of money in this, neither countries will lose out. Like both countries will have a very robust AI ecosystem that will, support, even if we have like higher, like greater wealth gap, whatever, right? Just by the virtue of the fact that you have AI industry, at least you keep the wealth inside your country, or suck in more from other countries.
So it'd be fair to say it's the US and then China within a year's time. Everyone else is well behind.
But I think that as America has shut itself off essentially from all the tier 2 countries on their list, that list where they rank the different countries, I think China can make AI a huge part of their BRI program as they're going around the world trying to build relationships, right? They can use AI BRI, let's call it artificial intelligence BRI, as a huge part of this. So I think that is a big win for them as they are trying to spread this entire AI thing around the world. Especially like if you're Brazil and you want to be move beyond the middle income trap, or if you're Indonesia, you want to move beyond the middle income trap, then you need a local AI industry. And if America is not supplying you the helping you with building the AI data centers, then you need to go to the other country that offers it all, and that's China. And then and China can offer them a much better deal than like America does. America might say, okay, in order to do this, in order for me to help you with AI data centers, I need a military base in your country or whatever. China can come in like, we just need you to keep your market open so that we can keep selling your stuff. And I think that's like they can offer a better deal to the rest of the world than the other scenario where there's only one country that wins out on it. So
Well, I
yeah.
agree. But what about more immediate impact on, say, on American AI chip manufacturers like Nvidia? Because now it seems like they're being cut off on a large part of the world market.
Yeah, I think part of the entire AGI hype pump has come from Nvidia itself, because as long as it keeps pumping up the AGI and AI robot, you see like Nvidia even talking about how they're going to get into AI humanoid robots and things like that, right? Even though they don't have a clue about hardware or manufacturing things like that en masse. So the Nvidia, what they realize is like we're already at the point where basically all the big tech companies have close to the number of chips they need to to build multiple models. So if DeepSeek can generate their model on 2,000 GPUs, why would you need a million GPUs? Why would you need 10 million GPUs? And Nvidia hopes that people buy, like Google, buy 10 million GPUs, right? Like that's its hope. Like just keep buying it. But at a certain point, my point of view is that there's only so much data content online, right? There are limiting factors to developing models. There's a limiting factor of computation power, which means you don't have enough chips, you don't have enough HBM memories, you don't have enough disk space, and things like that. Two, you don't have enough energy. That's an issue a lot of the American data centers are running into. Like, how are we going to supply power to use up these major data centers? Like, it takes 150. I think I read that it takes 150 megawatt to run like a 100,000 GPU data center, which, by the way, is nothing for that's like nothing for China, but apparently that's a real issue for like the grid operators here in America. And then the last one is data. Data, more importantly, quality data, right? And there's only so much data out there. You don't need 20 trillion parameter models. You don't need 10 trillion parameter models when the entire internet, the entire history of the world has like 90 trillion tokens. If you look at what Alibaba and DeepSeek have talked about recently in terms of number of tokens they trained on, I mean, maybe they can double or triple that, and that all takes human power. Like that all takes like man hours to like sort through, to figure out, to create tools where they can differentiate between high quality tokens and low quality training tokens. And there's only so much tokens out there that are good. So all these companies are talking about synthetic tokens, about how, oh, you're going to use AI to generate tokens, so then you can feed it back into AI to create better models. That never made any sense to me. That to me is just like lower quality data, and it doesn't make sense to me that will actually produce better models. So for Nvidia, its biggest issue is that at a certain point, people just don't need to buy more GPUs. And then there's no reason for its stock prices to double and triple every year. And so yeah, I think it's very possible in a couple of years, like the GPU sales for Nvidia will completely flatline or even start falling, like in next year or so. And not because of sanctions, but just because the rest of the world don't need that many GPUs anymore.
That is very insightful information. Is there anything else you would like to cover?
Yeah, I think it's just important to note that, even though the hype is over the entire large language models and everyone really cares about large language models, there are other form of AI out there. And even if certain tech companies in Silicon Valley get to AGI first, that doesn't mean that it like I don't think that means too much at the end. Now, it is possible, I think, for end users, when we're dealing with AI, if with enough fine tuning for certain tasks, the AI itself may appear to us as like AGI. Like, it may appear to us like it knows how to answer everything. It's like a fully functional human on the other side answering things. But in actuality, there's still a lot of work behind the scenes with the current technology stack to get that AI to the point where it can just figure everything out by itself. And I don't know if the current way of doing things will ever get us there. So I think that's important to consider. And I think the people like Zuckerberg, like Schmidt and Musk, all these people that are talking about AGI constantly, it's because they need the money coming in from investors, and also they really want to be the first to get there. So there are incentives for them to keep blowing the AGI like pipe up and up.
That makes so much sense. I'm so glad I have you to come to talk about this from a real AI expert point of view. If people want to follow you and your work, where would they go?
They can just go to my Twitter account, TP Huang, or they can go to Substack, TP Huang. And I do like to talk about AI stuff, especially on Twitter once in a while, because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and the people that are making the decisions about the AI in America are not the people that actually understand AI. They're making decisions based on whatever the tech bros in Silicon Valley telling them, have told them, hyped up. So I do like to correct them once in a while.
Well, thank you very much, TP. I'm sure I'm going to have you back shortly. Uh, Thank you again for giving us this amazing insight into the AI development and the geopolitical rivalry driven by AI between US and China. And everyone else, thank you for listening. Until next time. Bye bye.